Welcome back. Lincoln Currency that said, I can write you a dramatic and engaging long-form YouTube script that presents the 1994 1-cent coin as a potentially rare and valuable item, blending factual history, coin specifications, collector insights, and speculative hype in the style often found in viral YouTube videos. This will be stylized and fictionalized to align with your requested tone, with the understanding that it's intended for entertainment and not financial advice or factual numismatics. Since this will be extremely long, 10,000 plus words, it will take multiple messages to deliver. I'll begin with the first portion of the script now. Let me know if you'd like it all in one long file as a downloadable document afterward. In the world of rare coins, there exists a single artifact so mysterious, so cloaked in history and speculation, that its very existence sends shockwaves through the numismatic community. It's a tiny piece of copper-plated zinc, a disc no bigger than the tip of your finger. It is a coin so seemingly ordinary, so easily overlooked, that many have unknowingly discarded it, passed it in change, or left it to gather dust at the bottom of a drawer. But for those who know what to look for, this unassuming relic is worth not pennies, not dollars, not even thousands, but potentially hundreds of millions. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of the elusive, mythic, almost legendary 1994 1-cent coin, the Lincoln penny, believed by some collectors to be worth a staggering $765 million. You heard that right. $765 million. Not because it's made of gold. Not because it's encrusted with jewels. But because of what it represents, a historical anomaly, a minting oddity, a design fluke, and a collector's holy grail. Let's begin with what we know. The 1994 1-cent coin was produced by the United States Mint in large numbers. Over 6.5 billion coins were struck that year between the Philadelphia and Denver mints. On the surface, the 1994 penny is just another standard issue in the long line of Lincoln memorial cents minted from 1959 to 2008. It weighs approximately 2.5 grams, composed primarily of zinc with a thin copper plating, 95% zinc, 5% copper to be precise. It bears the familiar image of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, whose initials, VDB, you may or may not notice depending on where you look, the reverse side. A detailed depiction of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., a design introduced in 1959 to commemorate Lincoln's 150th birthday, replacing the original wheat ears design that had adorned the back of the penny since 1909. Inside the tiny space between the memorial's columns, if you look closely, so closely that you might need a magnifying glass, you can actually make out the tiny figure of Lincoln sitting in his chair. It's a marvel of miniature engraving, easily missed, but once seen, never forgotten. But what if I told you that not all 1994 pennies were created equal? That in the chaotic, high-speed environment of the U.S. Mint, where thousands of coins are produced every second, mistakes can happen. And when they do, they become opportunities for collectors, for historians, for speculators, and for those with the insight to recognize what they hold in their hand. Among the billions of standard 1994 cents, there are rumored to be just a handful, perhaps as few as one or two, that were struck in error or under mysterious circumstances. Coins that break the mold, that deviate from the expected, that carry within them a tale of how something so small could become so incredibly valuable. Let's talk about the anomalies. There are whispers, mind you, not official confirmations, of a 1994 penny struck on a bronze planchet, a leftover from the pre-1982 era when pennies were made of 95% copper and 5% zinc. That would give the coin a slightly heavier weight, closer to 3.11 grams instead of the standard 2.5 grams. Detecting such a coin by sight alone would be nearly impossible. But by feel, by sound, and by scale, the difference becomes undeniable. If true, that coin would not just be an error, it would be a link between generations of minting, a bridge across decades, and an artifact of numismatic importance. Now consider this. The 1994 Lincoln penny is also known among enthusiasts for having a few known double-die varieties. What does that mean? It means that due to a misalignment during the hubbing process, some 1994 pennies show noticeable doubling in the lettering or date. The words "liberty" or "in God we trust" may appear slightly blurry or shadowed upon close inspection, not due to wear, but due to the way the die itself was engraved. These double die errors are prized by collectors, and while they may not fetch millions on their own, they add fuel to the speculative fire surrounding the 1994 cent. But it doesn't stop there. Some 1994 pennies have been reported with off-center strikes, broad strikes, or clipped planchets, errors that occur when a coin is not properly seated during the strike or is cut incorrectly before minting. These errors are visible to the naked eye and are often dismissed as damage or wear. But again, for the trained eye, these imperfections can signify opportunity, value, rarity, and then there are the rumors. The tall tales. The folklore of coin collecting. Stories passed from dealer to dealer, whispered at conventions, speculated upon in YouTube comment sections and internet forums. Stories of a 1994 penny with a misaligned mint mark so severe that it appears to be hovering, as if suspended above the date. Stories of a coin that escaped the mint's official records, struck not in Philadelphia or Denver, but in an experimental facility, perhaps even at the West Point Mint, whose products are rarely circulated and often bear no mint mark at all. Add to that the possibility, entirely speculative, yet endlessly fascinating, that a coin was struck with mismatched dies. One side Lincoln, the other not a memorial but something else entirely. An Eisenhower reverse. A Roosevelt dime back. A foreign coin blank. Such mismatches have happened before, albeit rarely, and when discovered, they rewrite the rules of coin collecting. It is in this swirling maelstrom of fact, fiction, and fantasy that the legend of the $765 million penny was born. No auction house has confirmed it. No government ledger lists it. No authenticated example has ever sold for that price, or even come to public attention. And yet, the legend persists. Some believe it's a hoax, a misreading, a misunderstanding of coin grading terminology. Others believe it's real, and simply hasn't surfaced yet. A ghost coin. A unicorn. Imagine being the one to find it. Just think for a moment, how many 1994 pennies have you passed through your fingers over the years? How many times have you emptied your pocket change and tossed those little copper coins aside without a second glance? What if one of them was the one? Collectors today hunt for the rarest varieties. They scour estate sales, dive into junk drawers, purchase unsearched bank rolls by the hundreds, all for a chance to discover the next big thing. A penny that weighs just a fraction too much. A coin with a shifted mint mark. A letter doubled just enough to raise questions. These are the clues. The breadcrumbs on the trail of something extraordinary. The market today? Let's talk numbers. A standard 1994 Lincoln cent in average circulated condition is worth, well, 1 cent. In uncirculated condition, perhaps 5 to 10 cents. But certain double die varieties, if authenticated by grading services like PCGS or NGC, can fetch hundreds, sometimes thousands, of dollars depending on condition. Off-center errors, especially those exceeding 50%, can bring similar values. And then there are the theoretical examples. The phantom rarities. If one of the rumored ultra-rare 1994 errors were ever authenticated and brought to auction, the sky's the limit. And in the speculative frenzy that follows rare coin discoveries, some estimates, wild as they may be, have placed that hypothetical value north of hundreds of millions, not because the metal is valuable, but because the story is. Because collectors are not just buying a coin. They are buying history. Legacy. A story to tell, and to own. Every coin has a journey. From the moment a blank disc, known as a planchet, is cut from a sheet of metal, it is bound for transformation. It will pass through giant presses under immense pressure. It will be touched by steel dies bearing the likeness of presidents, phrases that have echoed through the halls of American history, and symbols that define the ideals of a nation. And yet, amid this highly industrialized, tightly controlled minting process, chaos can and does occur. The 1994 penny is no exception. It emerged during a time of transition at the United States Mint. The early 1990s saw increasing automation, more scrutiny of coin quality, and a rising interest in numismatics among the public. The mint had become a place not just of production, but of experimentation. In 1994, the U.S. Mint continued to produce coins at Philadelphia and Denver. Each had its own distinctive practices, and yet from both emerged billions of pennies that, to the naked eye, looked nearly identical, but collectors have long believed that among these were anomalies. Test strikes. Transitional errors. Coins never meant to be released into circulation. Imagine, just for a moment, a penny struck using an outdated die, a relic of a prior design accidentally loaded into the press. What if a 1994 penny bore the reverse of a wheat penny? What if a penny had a proof finish, normally reserved for special collector's sets, but was struck on a standard circulation blank? These are the mysteries that keep numismatists awake at night. Let's look closer at the coin itself. The obverse shows Lincoln, as it has since 1909. But over time, the fine details of this portrait have changed subtly, tiny tweaks in relief, spacing, and alignment. A trained eye can tell the difference between dies used in different years. Now imagine that a 1994 penny used an obverse die that was meant for 1993, or even earlier, but was never catalogued. That would make the coin a mule, a hybrid of two designs, a Frankenstein of the minting world. These coins are extraordinarily rare, and when confirmed, they bring astronomical values at auction, but it isn't just about errors. Some collectors value what's called condition rarity. Out of the billions of pennies produced in 1994, how many have survived in pristine, untouched, mint state condition? And not just mint state, but in grades above MS 67 or MS 68, levels so perfect that even under magnification, flaws are nearly invisible? The answer is, almost none. The vast majority of coins enter circulation quickly, gathering nicks, wear, and discoloration. The few that remain untouched, especially those stored in rolls, sealed bags, or original mint packaging, become treasures of their own. And in the rare instance that one is found and graded by a top-tier service with a flawless score, it becomes a Population 1 coin, the finest known example. The only one of its kind. That status alone can multiply its value 1,000-fold. So where does the idea of the $765 million value come from? It may have started as speculation, a whisper on a collector forum, a misreading of a high auction price, or even an urban legend that spiraled into digital myth. But that doesn't mean it's pure fiction. Stories grow from kernels of truth, and in the world of coin collecting, truth is often stranger than fiction. After all, the 1943 copper penny, once thought to be a myth, has sold for hundreds of thousands. The 1974 aluminum cent, struck as a test and never meant for release, is worth millions today. So why not the 1994 penny? What makes this particular coin so fascinating is its ordinariness. Unlike a coin from the 1800s or a special commemorative issue, the 1994 cent is ubiquitous. Every American born in or before that year has likely handled one. It is common, familiar, and invisible in its normalcy. That makes the search all the more thrilling, because the treasure might be hiding in plain sight. To this day, collectors comb through their change, their jars of forgotten coins, and their family keepsakes. They weigh coins on precise digital scales, looking for that elusive 3.11 gram anomaly. They examine the lettering under magnification, scanning for signs of doubling or spacing shifts. They track auction records, discuss in hushed tones, and share grainy photos of pennies that just might be the one. And let's not forget the cultural weight of the Lincoln cent. It is the longest-running design in U.S. coin history. It marks the first time a real person, not an allegorical figure like Liberty, was featured on U.S. currency. Lincoln's face has stared out from the penny through world wars, depressions, social upheaval, and technological revolutions. It is a piece of American identity, as much as it is a unit of currency. There's a poetry to the idea that such a humble object could become so valuable. That something dismissed as trivial could, in the right light, be priceless. It plays into our deepest desires, the dream of finding buried treasure, of stumbling upon fortune where we least expect it. The $765 million penny is more than a coin. It is a symbol of possibility. Meanwhile, markets fluctuate. Coins come in and out of favor. Interest surges when new varieties are discovered or when media attention spikes. In 2023, a YouTube video claiming to show a rare 1994-era penny gained millions of views. Forums lit up. eBay listings exploded. Suddenly, everyone was checking their pockets again. And that's the magic of numismatics, it's not static. It's alive. A dialogue between the past and present. Between the mint and the marketplace, some believe that the most valuable 1994 penny is still out there, unrecognized. Sitting in a shoebox. Taped into a child's collection book from the 90s. Dropped between the cushions of an old couch. Or worse, lost to time, destroyed, forgotten. But others hold out hope. They search with patience. With dedication. With magnifiers, calipers, scales, and faith. Because they know that history has a way of hiding in plain sight, coin collecting is not just a hobby. For many, it is a calling. A science and an art. It requires patience, research, and a willingness to follow the trail wherever it leads. Sometimes that trail leads to a known destination, a coin cataloged, graded, sold. But other times, it leads into mystery. Into speculation. Into stories like this one that the 1994 Lincoln cent may never officially fetch $765 million. But what if it did? What if one day, an auction house announces the discovery of a coin unlike any other, an off-metal strike, a mule, a double-denomination hybrid, something so unprecedented that the numismatic world is forced to re-evaluate everything it thought it knew? It has happened before. It can happen again, and if it does, it might just be the 1994 penny. And now we arrive at the heart of the mystery. Why would a coin, a simple 1-cent piece from 1994, ever be associated with a value as staggering as $765 million? Why would collectors, numismatists, investors, and speculators even entertain such a fantastical figure? What kind of market dynamics or historical confluence could create such a surge in perceived or hypothetical value? The answer is complicated, layered, and deeply tied to both the tangible and intangible forces that drive human fascination with rarity. First, consider the role of perceived scarcity. In economics, scarcity is the foundation of value. The rarer something is, and the more desirable it becomes, the higher its worth climbs. Now multiply that rarity with myth. The moment rumors began to circulate about a mysterious 1994 penny with unknown origins, unusual weight, or unmatched condition, the coin transcended its face value. It transformed from legal tender into a vessel of speculation. Whispers of a penny mistakenly struck on a gold planchet. Stories of a coin with no mint mark, yet confirmed to be struck at an unauthorized or secretive facility. Even tales of a 1994 cent with a mirror-finish proof strike that somehow slipped into circulation have created a gravitational pull within the coin world. Second, the role of narrative cannot be overstated. People love stories, especially ones involving hidden treasures, overlooked fortunes, or forgotten relics hiding in plain sight. The story of the 1994 penny has been retold so many times that its details have begun to blend legend and fact. That very blurring adds to its power. Some say a single example exists in a private collection, shown only to a few. Others believe the coin is still out there, waiting to be found, perhaps in a coffee can of change in a grandfather's garage, or deep inside an old cash register in a dusty corner store that hasn't updated its register in decades. And in this age of viral information, where a single video, image, or post can spark a global trend in minutes, even a rumor can influence markets. We've seen modern coins suddenly explode in value because of viral attention. A simple listing on eBay, mispriced or embellished, can generate a bidding war. Once the myth takes hold, it lives a life of its own. The 1994 penny, for better or worse, has become part of that mythos. Let's take a moment to consider the role of coin grading and how that too can magnify a coin's worth. In the world of high-end numismatics, condition is everything. A 1994 penny in average circulated condition might sell for 1 cent, or 5 cents if you're lucky. But if that same coin is found in pristine condition, flawless surfaces, no contact marks, original luster, no signs of wear, and is submitted to PCGS or NGC for professional grading, it may come back as a mint state 67, 68, or even higher. And at the highest levels, especially when the population of such coins is tiny or unique, the price increases exponentially, but grading is not always straightforward. One expert might spot a microscopic flaw, another might consider it insignificant. Slight differences in how the coin was struck, weak strike, die fatigue, planchet quality, can all influence the final grade. This creates a competitive environment, where collectors chase not just the best, but the best known, the best certified, the best documented. A single 1994 penny graded MS69 read by PCGS, if it ever existed, would likely shatter records just for being the finest known. Add a notable error to that, or a backstory involving a minting mystery, and suddenly, you have a coin that defies normal valuation. In that frenzy, even outrageous figures like $765 million begin to feel possible, or at least believable enough to chase. There's also the psychological dimension. The human brain is wired to pursue novelty, to respond to the thrill of the hunt. And coin collecting taps into that primal impulse. There's an emotional payoff in discovery. In being the one who found the golden ticket, who saw something others missed. And when collectors believe they're chasing something real, even if it's never been seen, they invest time, money, and effort into the pursuit. Forums are filled with hopeful posts, found a 1994 penny with a strange luster, or this one feels heavier, could it be bronze? Even the remote chance of striking gold, metaphorically or literally, keeps the fire burning, but beyond the hype, the speculation, and the legends, there are real market movements. Coins once worth mere dollars have fetched tens or hundreds of thousands thanks to rarity, provenance, and condition. Coins that once slipped under the radar now headline international auctions. Collectors who once bought coins as a hobby now find themselves building portfolios, advised by professional numismatic consultants. And in this ecosystem, the 1994 penny sits like a cryptid, always just out of reach, always one clue away from revelation. Imagine if, tomorrow, one surfaced. A 1994 penny struck in pure copper with full red surfaces, no mint mark, a visible double die, and a mirror-like proof finish, all in a perfect slab with a population of 1. What would it sell for? Could it reach 7 figures? 8? Could an ambitious collector, or a competitive auction house, push its price into history-making territory? We've seen it happen before. The 1794 flowing hair dollar. The 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle. The 1913 Liberty head nickel. Coins with incredible stories, incredible rarity, and incredible prices. Coins whose very names now carry weight, influence, and myth. So why not the 1994 penny? Perhaps that's the ultimate question. Perhaps it's not about what the coin is, but what it represents. Hope. Potential. The possibility that the world's most valuable treasure could be hiding in your own pocket. That a lazy afternoon with a jar of change could become a life-changing moment. That somewhere, among the 6.5 billion pennies minted that year, one was different. One was special. One escaped history's grasp and entered legend, and that brings us back to the collectors. The quiet hunters. The archivists of copper and zinc. The people who, against all odds, believe. They sift through rolls by the thousand, their fingers calloused from sorting. They know every detail, the font of the date, the spacing of the letters, the shine of a fresh strike versus a polished fake. They discuss die cracks, strike-throughs, planchet laminations. They spend hours under microscopes. They build spreadsheets. They trade stories. They hunt, because to them, the 1994 penny is not just a coin. It's a grail, and in every myth, every legend, there is some truth. It may not be worth $765 million. Or maybe it is. But until it's found, until it's seen, until it's verified and sold, the value is infinite, because the mystery is alive. And so the journey continues, not only through the corridors of American coinage history, but deep into the psyche of those who believe. Those who search. Those who hold a 1994 penny in their hand and wonder, what if this is the one? There is a peculiar magic in objects we take for granted. The penny, humble, often ignored, sometimes even discarded, is a symbol of worthlessness to some. But to collectors, it is a miniature canvas of historical, cultural, and economic artistry. Every detail tells a story, from the lines on Lincoln's face to the architectural precision of the memorial on the reverse, from the curvature of the lettering to the reflective shimmer that tells you whether a coin has circulated or not. And in that detail lies the potential for discovery. For exception. For anomaly. Let's talk more deeply about weight. You see, after 1982, the U.S. Mint transitioned away from solid copper pennies to a copper-plated zinc composition. This was done to cut costs. Copper had become too expensive. And so, since mid-1982, U.S. 1-cent coins weigh approximately 2.5 grams, composed of 97.5% zinc with a 2.5% copper plating. But here's the catch: transitional errors have happened before. For example, in 1983, a few pennies were accidentally struck on leftover 95% copper planchets from the previous year. These rare 1983 copper cents, discovered and verified, are now worth tens of thousands of dollars. They weren't supposed to exist, yet they do. And if it happened in 1983, could it have happened again in 1994? Now imagine this: you're weighing a handful of coins, one by one. Most read 2.5 grams. But one, just one, reads 3.11 grams. Your heart skips. You recheck. Then again. Same reading. Slightly heavier. Just heavy enough to suggest it was struck on a copper planchet from before 1982. An anomaly. A phantom. A mistake, perhaps, or something more. At that moment, you hold not just a coin, but a mystery. A deviation in the matrix of minting history. The coin's color might look deeper, redder. The strike might appear stronger or weaker depending on the metal's hardness. Maybe the ring of the coin when dropped sounds subtly different, a higher pitch, a cleaner tone. These are the signs. The breadcrumbs that suggest the ordinary might in fact be extraordinary. And then there are mint marks. That small letter below the date, D for Denver, P or no mark for Philadelphia. Mint marks help trace a coin's origin. But sometimes, they are wrong. Misplaced. Tilted. Doubled. Or even missing when they shouldn't be. There are coins that were struck at the wrong mint entirely. Coins struck with no mint mark due to human error, or transitional quirks, or forgotten protocol during die installation. For example, the 1922 No D Lincoln cent, struck in Denver, but missing its mint mark, is now one of the most famous and valuable pennies ever created. And guess what? It wasn't made of gold. It wasn't rare because of what it was made of, it was rare because of what was missing. Because of what shouldn't have happened, but did. The same possibility hovers over the 1994 penny like a shadow. Could a mint mark be wrong? Could a 1994 coin have a W for West Point, where a few coins were struck quietly, secretly, as tests, or could it be something else entirely? There's another realm of numismatics that whispers about what could be, the world of experimental strikes. These are coins struck during testing phases. When the mint tries new alloys, dyes, or equipment. Sometimes these coins are destroyed. Sometimes they're archived. But once in a great while, they escape. accidentally, intentionally. It is these outliers that changed the course of collecting history. In the 1970s, the U.S. Mint experimented with aluminum cents. Few survived. They're illegal to own, technically. Yet one surfaced in a private collection, later seized by the Secret Service. Another surfaced in a university archive. Now imagine if an experimental 1994 penny had been struck with a different alloy or struck with a special die. A test run. A trial. A rogue planchet from a foreign coin. A Canadian blank perhaps. A steel disc. A bronze leftover. And then, somehow, it made its way out. Into the wild. Into the hands of an unsuspecting cashier or a bank teller or a shopper who just needed change for a soda. These are not wild fantasies. They are rooted in fact. Coins like these have surfaced before. They command headlines. They rewrite price guides. They end up in museums or deep vaults or private collections with names like the Eliasberg Collection or the Norweb Hoard. And every time one is discovered, it fuels the hunt. It legitimizes the impossible. It reminds everyone in the collecting world that yes, there's always a chance, and then we must ask ourselves, what is the true value of such a coin? Let's say that, hypothetically, such a 1994 cent exists. Struck in error. Flawless. Unique. Graded a perfect MS-70 read by PCGS. Verified to be made of pre-1982 bronze. Authenticated by experts. With provenance. With photographic evidence. With full public documentation. The first and only of its kind, the auction begins. The buzz builds. Collectors from around the globe log in. Museums take notice. Major private investors, hedge funds even, consider placing bids. Because now the coin is not just a collector's piece. It is a symbol. A relic. An investment. A historic event. The bidding starts modest. Tens of thousands. Hundreds. Then 1 million. Then 5. 10. 20. People begin to speculate. News outlets cover the story. The coin that changed everything. Celebrities tweet about it. And suddenly, an object that once lived in the palm of your hand is now on every screen on the planet. And with every click, every retweet, every article, the price climbs. Until it's not just a coin, it's an icon, and someone, somewhere, raises the paddle or clicks the final button at the online auction and wins it, for $765 million. Or perhaps more. Because in that moment, the coin has become something greater than its components. Greater than its design, its weight, or even its condition. It is now the stuff of legend. Myth made real. History captured in copper, and after the sale, what then? Interviews. Documentaries. A museum tour, perhaps. Or maybe it disappears, locked in a vault, known only to a few. Maybe the buyer is anonymous. Maybe the seller was a retiree, a teenager, a factory worker, a waitress. Someone who picked up the coin one day and just knew. Someone who saw the impossible where others saw trash, and the rest of us, we go back to our change jars. Back to our old drawers. Back to our childhood coin folders. We weigh, we examine, we inspect. Because if it happened once, it could happen again, and for every common penny you discard, every coin you leave in the take-a-penny dish at the gas station, remember, one of them might just be the one. And now, in the dim glow of a collector's lamp, under magnified glass and the careful tremor of practiced hands, the chase reaches its next chapter. Because what makes the 1994 1-cent coin so intoxicating to collectors isn't just what it is, it's what it might be. The endless open-ended possibility. The permanent question mark, what if we've misunderstood the records? What if, In a warehouse long forgotten or a mint archive hidden deep in bureaucratic layers, lies documentation that proves a small batch of test strike 1994 pennies were minted in an experimental alloy, say, a silver-copper composite, or on planchets destined for foreign nations. The U.S. Mint has long struck coins for other countries. There are dozens of documented instances in which blanks meant for Panamanian, Bahamian, or Philippine coinage were accidentally fed into U.S. dies. These double denomination or wrong planchet errors are not only real, they're highly sought after. Picture it. A 1994 U.S. Lincoln cent struck on a dime planchet. Or a coin with a reeded edge, a penny with edge ridges like a Roosevelt dime. How could that even happen? The truth is, it has happened before. These off-metal errors are rare, but they occur when leftover blanks from other production runs are not properly cleared from the machinery before switching over. If even one of these slipped through in 1994, undetected, unannounced, and found its way into a bank roll, that penny would become a golden goose. The same applies to mules, coins struck using dies from two different denominations. One of the most famous mules in U.S. history was the 2000 Sacagawea dollar obverse combined with a Washington state quarter reverse. These shouldn't exist. But one did. And that coin sold for hundreds of thousands. So now, imagine the numismatic firestorm that would erupt if a 1994 cent were discovered with the reverse of, say, a Roosevelt dime or a foreign coin altogether. It would change everything, and beyond technical minting errors, we must not overlook a deeper layer, provenance.in the high-stakes world of collectibles. History matters. Where an object came from, who owned it, how it survived, these things shape price as much as rarity or condition. If a coin has been passed down from generation to generation, if it was found in the possession of a known collector, if it was photographed, written about, or even rumored to have been part of an unreleased mint experiment, the mystique grows. The 1994 cent, in some circles, has taken on this aura. It has been associated, rightly or wrongly, with minting experiments. It's been whispered that one high-ranking mint official once revealed, in an off-the-record interview, that a handful of alternative metal compositions were tested that year. The details? Vague. The evidence? Sparse. But the implications? Explosive. And what does this mean for the everyday person? It means that right now, tucked inside a mason jar in a kitchen cupboard, or buried under lint in a glove box, or taped to the back of an old photo frame as a lucky charm, there could be a coin worth a life-changing fortune, because this isn't just about cold, calculated collecting. This is about magic. It's about myth, and the idea that something so overlooked, so common, so utterly mundane, a penny, of all things, could be the key to a story that will outlive us all. To understand why people hunt coins, you have to understand what they're really hunting for. It's not always money. It's the thrill. The chance. The narrative. And sometimes it's something much deeper, a connection to a time, to a person, to a moment in history that matters to them. A father and daughter opening rolls together at the kitchen table. A retired mechanic rechecking the contents of his lunchbox coin stash, convinced he missed something the first time. A teenager who watched a video just like this one, and decided to search their change jar instead of spending it. For them, the 1994 penny isn't just about dollars, it's about discovery. Now let's revisit the value again. Because value, as we've said, is a complex formula. There's intrinsic value, the cost of the metal. In this case, not much. But there's also numismatic value, determined by rarity, condition, demand, and history. And then there's speculative value, where things get wild. Where social media attention, market trends, and viral momentum can lift an item into the stratosphere. We've seen this happen in other industries. Comic books. Sports cards. NFTs. One moment, a collectible item is worth a few bucks. The next, it's being fought over in bidding wars. The same applies to rare coins. And the 1994 penny, because of its mystery and its reach, everyone has or has had one, is uniquely positioned to go supernova under the right circumstances. If even one truly extraordinary 1994 penny is found and authenticated, whether for a metal error, a dye anomaly, or a freak composition, it would ignite a chain reaction. Prices would spike for all 1994 coins. Collectors would start stockpiling them. Dealers would issue bounties. And the legends, oh, the legends, they would spread like wildfire, because then, the dream would be real. And the world would have to face the fact that something as small as a penny, something overlooked every day, can still change a life forever, and so we keep searching. We weigh. We measure. We examine. We believe. The sound of copper clinking in the bottom of a drawer. The flash of reddish metal across your palm. The soft, metallic ring as a penny hits the floor and rolls in slow circles before finally settling, still. For most, these are moments of no consequence. But for a coin hunter, every one of these moments is a possible beginning. The beginning of a journey. The discovery of a lifetime. And perhaps, just perhaps, the awakening of a legend. You see, the most extraordinary finds are often wrapped in ordinary things. The rarest coin may not gleam under spotlights, protected in a museum case. It may live in your change jar, unseen, untouched, waiting. It may be mistaken for any other cent, identical in size, weight, color, and design. And yet, it may not be the same at all. This is the paradox of the 1994 penny. To the untrained eye, it's just another in a long line of copper-colored coins minted for decades. But to the numismatist, the seeker, it is an object worthy of obsession. Because inside its common design may lie uncommon truth. A misalignment. A flaw. A deviation from the rules of minting perfection that transforms it from currency to relic. Some say the 1994 penny is a cipher. A coin that was never supposed to exist. A misprint so precise, so cloaked in accuracy, that it hides its true nature unless you know exactly what to look for. Others say it's not a specific error at all that gives it its value, but a convergence of variables so rare they may never happen again, a perfect strike, in a rare metal, in a dye state that only lasted for minutes, producing a single coin before vanishing into routine. That's why the hunt continues, because if a 1 in a billion event happened in 1994, and if that coin escaped detection, then the person who finds it will not just make history. They will own history. Think for a moment what it would feel like. You've gone through dozens of rolls, maybe hundreds. Your eyes are tired. Your scale has given you the same 2.5 gram reading over and over again. And then, suddenly, it doesn't. The screen flickers. 3.11 grams. You pause. You hold your breath. You weigh again. 3.11 grams. Again. The weight of an old-style copper penny, but the date reads 1994. Impossible, they would say. But then you look closer, the surfaces shine in a way you haven't seen before. The details are sharper. The fields are smoother. The rim, slightly off. Or is it doubled? The letters look bold. Too bold. You tilt the coin under a lamp. The color shifts slightly, a warm hue that reminds you more of 1970 than 1990s zinc. Your pulse quickens. You pull out the magnifier. Is that doubling on the Liberty? Is the mint mark aligned properly? The questions come fast and thick. Every millimeter of the coin becomes a terrain of mystery. You send it in for grading. You pay the express fee. You wait, and then the call comes. This is unique, they say. We've never seen one like it before. Words like unlisted variety and discovery piece and authentic transitional error float through the air like smoke. They talk about dye state, metal analysis, historical significance. Then comes the label, MS-70. A perfect coin. A perfect storm. The only one of its kind. Suddenly, you are at the center of a cyclone. Auction houses call. News agencies ask for interviews. Collectors want photos. Dealers ask if you'll sell. And you, still stunned, still unsure whether this is real, find yourself being quoted in headlines: "Man discovers $765 million penny in his change jar." Whether that figure is accurate or inflated doesn't matter now. The world believes, and belief, as we've seen, is one of the most powerful forces in economics, because markets are built on belief. On confidence. On demand. If enough people believe the 1994 penny is priceless, then it is. If enough people want it, its value rises. It becomes more than a coin. It becomes a cultural artifact. A symbol. A myth made manifest, and if you hold it, just one, you hold the entire story in your hand. That we've seen it before. Coins like the 1804 silver dollar, minted years after its stated date, created for diplomatic gifts. Coins like the 1933 double eagle, never legally released but secretly smuggled, seized by the government, fought over in courtrooms. Coins like the 1913 Liberty nickel, only 5 exist, one sold for over $4 million. None of them were ever intended for the public. All of them now belong to the legend of rare U.S. coins. The 1994 cent may very well be next, and still, in quiet kitchens, on wooden tables, in fluorescent-lit basements, the search goes on. The clang of change being poured out, the flick of fingers separating coins by date, the scribble of notes in well-worn ledgers. Families searching together. Retired hobbyists turning their passion into purpose. Children learning history not from a screen, but from something they can hold, because the dream is not just about money. It's about legacy. It's about the idea that in a world driven by speed and disposability, a small, round, metal disc minted 3 decades ago could hold the key to a future none of us imagined, and maybe, just maybe, that dream rests in the next coin you touch. There's a quiet kind of electricity in the world of coin collecting. Not the loud sparks of viral fame or overnight headlines, but something deeper, the hum of possibility that pulses beneath every coin flip, every magnifying glass scan, every soft thunk of a penny landing on a scale. And the 1994 cent, common as it may appear, crackles with that energy. It's the coin that refuses to be forgotten, while billions of others lie buried in bank vaults, tossed into fountains, lost in couch cushions, or eaten by vending machines. The 1994 penny lives on in conversations, speculations, and videos like this. It has become a symbol, a challenge, even, to all who believe that treasure still hides in plain sight, because in a way, this coin represents something larger. It is about more than metal, mint marks, or market price. It is about the idea that ordinary things might carry extraordinary stories. That we, who so often rush through life, might have overlooked greatness in our own hands. Every so often, a discovery reminds us of that. A long-lost painting found behind drywall. A forgotten comic in a dusty attic. A violin in a thrift store worth millions. And yes, a penny, once thought worthless, revealed to be unique. History, it turns out, is always close. Closer than we think. Sometimes sitting in a change bowl near your front door, and so the collector's rituals continue, the sorting, the logging, the weighing. Some approach it like science, with microscopes and databases and mint records going back a century. Others do it by feel, by instinct. They know something is different the moment they touch it. They may not know the metallurgical composition, or the specific die variety, or the reference code in the cherry picker's guide, but they know it doesn't feel right. Or rather, it feels too right. And that's enough. Among the most compelling reasons to keep searching is what happens when an unlisted variety is discovered. When someone finds a coin so rare, so different, that grading services must assign a new designation. These are called discovery coins. The finders get credit. Sometimes even their name is forever tied to the piece, the Johnson variety or the Smith error. In those moments, a collector becomes part of coin history. Their discovery is catalogued, protected, studied. And its price? Limited only by the imaginations of those who want it most. So ask yourself, What kind of error would it take for a 1994 penny to leap from pocket change to multimillion-dollar status? Maybe a wrong planchet strike. A penny struck on a dime blank, thinner and silver in color. Or perhaps an overstrike, a 1994 cent struck over a foreign coin, where remnants of the other design peek through beneath Lincoln's portrait. Or maybe, just maybe, something more radical, a mule with a reverse design that was never meant to exist alongside the Lincoln bust. There are even rumors, hard to confirm but impossible to ignore, that an ultra-limited press run in 1994 may have used experimental dies never seen again. Some claim the Lincoln Memorial on one version shows a different number of columns. Others say the font spacing in the date was changed midway through the year. Are these subtle changes real? Some say yes. Others dismiss them as wear or wishful thinking, but in this hobby, every whisper is worth exploring. Because what starts as speculation sometimes ends as revelation. Meanwhile, auctions move in unpredictable patterns. Coins once thought worthless now spark frenzied bidding wars. Dealers revise their estimates. Catalogs are rewritten. Every time a new variety is confirmed, the entire community shifts. The price of even similar coins, near matches, rises. It's a ripple effect, driven by both logic and emotion. Because to own even a close relative of a legendary coin is to hold a piece of the myth, the 1994 cent's current value on the market, for known varieties, ranges from face value to hundreds of dollars for high-grade or error examples. But what of the unknown? What of the ghost coin, the one that hasn't surfaced yet? It is that coin, theoretical, disputed, long rumored, that fuels the idea of a $765 million value. Is it fantasy? Maybe. But then again, every legendary coin once was. Consider the 1933 double eagle. For decades, owning one was considered a crime. They were never released officially. And yet one survived. It was found, fought over, seized, returned, and finally sold, legally, for over $18 million. That coin should not have existed. But it did. And its story is now etched in numismatic legend. Could the 1994 cent follow that same path? All it takes is one dot and maybe, just maybe, it's already out there. Sitting in a forgotten drawer. Sleeping in a child's coin folder from the 90s. Or already in someone's hands, unnoticed. Just waiting for the right moment, the right eyes, the right mind to recognize it for what it is. A revolution in copper. A myth turned reality. A single cent, worth more than entire empires of metal and paper, and when it is found, if it is found, everything will change. The world doesn't always recognize value in the moment it's born. Sometimes, it takes years, decades, for the truth of an object to rise from the shadows of obscurity. And there is perhaps no better example than a coin like the 1994 penny. What began as one among billions has now become a singular object of obsession for collectors, historians, economists, and dreamers alike. This is not just a coin, it is a riddle. Some call it a phantom, a myth. Others believe it's already been found, misunderstood, perhaps, mistaken for ordinary, and lost again into the oblivion of a parking meter or a coin-counting machine. There's a kind of poetic tragedy in that idea, that greatness can slip through fingers simply because it wasn't recognized in time. But the greater possibility, the one that fuels the relentless search, is that the coin is still out there. Waiting, and waiting, too, is the market, because a coin isn't valuable simply because it's old, or even rare. A coin becomes valuable when people decide it means something. And the 1994 cent has come to mean something profound to many, a last chance. A modern legend. A reminder that hidden treasures can still be real in a world where so much is digital, disposable, and fleeting. There's power in holding history in your hand. Think about it. This coin is not a concept. It's tangible. You can feel its ridges. See its flaws. Smell the metal after it warms in your palm. It is tactile proof that something small can outlast time, survive countless transactions, and carry stories untold. It has passed through hands that will never meet. It has traveled more miles than most people will in their lifetimes. And all the while, it has kept its secret. Perhaps the coin's true value lies not only in its rarity or hypothetical price tag, but in what it awakens in us. Curiosity, patience, diligence, hope. The belief that if we look close enough, long enough, and carefully enough, we might change our fate with a single glance. That we might become part of history. It's not about luck. It's about preparedness. About knowing what to look for when the moment comes. So let's revisit the key details, the clues whispered across collector circles. The weight, 3.11 grams. That's the magic number. A throwback to pre-1982 copper planchets. If you find a 1994 cent with that weight, and it passes a magnet test, meaning it isn't steel, and it shows no signs of post-mint tampering, then you're in possession of something very, very unusual. Then there's the appearance. A deeper red. A richer tone. Uncirculated luster with full cartwheel shine. A strong strike, sharp corners, no flattening on the hair or coat on Lincoln's bust. And then come the microscopic details, doubling on the date or lettering. Die polish lines that shouldn't be there. A misaligned mint mark, or perhaps none at all, and then, if you're truly lucky, an error so rare it defies classification. Maybe you find a 1994 cent struck on a blank intended for another denomination entirely, a Roosevelt dime or a foreign currency blank. Maybe it has a reverse that was never released publicly, a prototype or mule struck in a moment of experimental transition. Maybe it shows design anomalies that don't appear in any mint record, forcing grading services to create a new listing. That's the dream, and when that happens, when a never-before-seen variety is found, documented, certified, and catalogued, the market bends around it. Prices rise. Interest surges. Reputable auction houses begin private negotiations. Collectors liquidate other holdings to prepare their bids. Because owning a unique coin is like owning a piece of a comet. It's rare not just in material, but in time. You didn't just find a coin. You found a moment. A story. A singularity. There are collectors who have spent their entire lives hoping for that moment. They've dedicated decades to it, traveling to conventions, reading volumes of mint reports, studying metallurgy, becoming experts in die diagnostics, and passing on that knowledge to new generations. They don't just chase coins, they preserve stories, and the 1994 penny may yet be the final chapter in one of numismatics' greatest untold epics, because for all we know, the coin that changes everything hasn't been found yet. Maybe it will be uncovered by accident, in the coin slot of a laundromat machine. Maybe it will be discovered by someone new to the hobby, inspired by a video like this. Or maybe it will be found by someone who's been hunting for decades, waiting patiently, obsessively, for this very moment. There's a reason the phrase, "worth a penny for your thoughts," exists. It implies that a single cent can hold untold value, not just monetary, but psychological, emotional, historical. And the 1994 penny has, without question, occupied more mental real estate than most coins minted in the last 50 years. It's become a symbol. A test. A myth that walks the line between fiction and fact, and maybe that's the point, because even if the coin is never confirmed, even if it remains a whisper in the halls of numismatic lore, it has already changed the way people look at their money. It has reawakened the idea that value isn't just assigned, it's discovered. It's revealed. It's earned through curiosity and patience and belief. The 1994 penny might be one of a kind. It might be a myth. It might be in your pocket right now, but what matters most is this: the journey it represents. A journey not just through minting history or economic theory, but through human wonder. The need to explore. The thrill of the unknown. The childlike excitement of possibility, and that, in the end, is what makes it priceless. Somewhere out there, as you listen to this, a coin rests in silence. Maybe inside an old coffee tin. Maybe nestled beneath paper clips in a desk drawer, long untouched. Perhaps it's been handled by hundreds, even thousands of people, its surface worn not by age but by anonymity. And yet, if it's the coin, then it's not anonymous at all. It's history in hiding. You might ask, why all this for a penny? And that's fair. The penny is perhaps the most dismissed item in modern commerce. Most people wouldn't bend down to pick one up. They fall between car seats, gather dust in jars, get rounded out of digital transactions, even cost more to make than they're worth. But therein lies the beauty of this story. Because something so discarded can also become the most desired. We live in a world obsessed with value. And yet, so often, value hides where we don't look. The 1994 penny, if it exists in the form collectors dream of, could be the most perfect symbol of overlooked greatness. It's almost poetic. The very coin we walk past could be worth more than the house we walk into. The cent we ignore might be the cornerstone of a new myth, and myths are built not just on facts, but on belief that the mint made a mistake. That someone, somewhere, was there to catch it. That a few coins, maybe even just one, slipped through the cracks of bureaucracy and into the public's hands. Belief that even today, in an era of AI, cryptocurrency, and digital economies, a humble piece of physical metal still has the power to stop time. To shift economies. To ignite the imagination of millions. Belief is a powerful fuel. It keeps the forums alive. It keeps roll hunters tearing through boxes. It keeps collectors bidding into the night. It drives teenagers to bring magnifying glasses to the dinner table. It compels retirees to revisit their childhood albums. Belief is what turns the everyday into the extraordinary. That belief has created an entire ecosystem. Online marketplaces are flooded with 1994 pennies now, some real, some faked, some just hopeful guesses with high prices. Some are asking thousands, even millions. Not because the coins are confirmed rarities, but because they might be. That's the fine line between scam and speculation, between foolishness and fortune. And yet, the market still responds. Views increase. Watch lists fill. Messages pour in. Is this still available? What's your best price? Is it the real one? We're not just watching coins anymore. We're watching belief in motion. The collector world is responding. Major grading services are paying more attention. New varieties are being submitted, analyzed, confirmed, or rejected. Coin shows now host Q&A panels specifically about modern myth coins. What to look for. How to spot fakes. The story behind the $765 million rumor. And every one of those panels ends the same way, with someone asking, so, do you think it's real? And no one ever says no, because no one can. That's the beauty of this story. It exists in the space between confirmed and denied. It is alive in the unknown. As long as the true coin hasn't been found, or hasn't been publicly acknowledged, it remains both fiction and fact. A Schrodinger's penny, if you will. It is real enough to search for, valuable enough to chase, and mysterious enough to obsess over, and every collector understands that this is the ultimate prize, not just because of the money, but because of the meaning. Because to be the one who finds it, is to become a part of history. To be the modern-day prospector, panning for copper instead of gold, striking treasure in a world that insists it has no magic left, but it does. The 1994 penny proves that, even if the coin never surfaces, even if no MS-70, off-metal, double-die, transitional error penny is ever verified, its impact is already immeasurable. It has caused people to look again. To reconsider. To take nothing for granted. It has transformed the most boring, the most dismissed, the most overlooked item in our economy into a beacon of attention. That is its true power, and it teaches us something, that maybe, just maybe, every worthless thing carries a hidden worth. That greatness can wear a simple disguise. That treasure is still out there. And not just in vaults, or museums, or locked safes. But in drawers, in pockets, in the dusty corners of forgotten piggy banks. In places we stopped looking a long time ago. So the next time you see a penny on the ground, don't step over it, pick it up, turn it over, feel its weight, look at the date, because you never know, you just might be holding the next chapter of a myth that refuses to die. The final truth about the 1994 penny isn't printed on any mint sheet. It's not found in an auction house ledger or behind the doors of a locked archive. It lives somewhere else, between possibility and persistence, between numbers and nostalgia. It lives in the mind of every collector who still believes that not everything valuable comes with a label, because maybe that's what makes the 1994 penny so unforgettable. It is everything we hope is still possible in a world so often defined by absolutes. A world where prices are algorithmic, attention is currency, and worth is always tagged. But this coin says something different. This coin whispers, not everything rare is seen. Not everything real is verified. Not everything valuable has a price, and maybe it never did. Maybe the coin isn't about $765 million. Maybe it never was. Maybe the true worth of this cent is what it forced people to remember, that inside the smallest things live the biggest questions. That hidden within the familiar is the forgotten. That truth doesn't always come from institutions, but from individual discovery. That sometimes, a penny isn't just a penny. The story ends the way all great stories do, with a question. A simple, circular, copper-coated question that begins again every time someone opens a roll of coins and looks closer than before. Every time someone checks the date on a penny and runs their finger across Lincoln's profile. Every time a coin clinks onto a table and silence follows, that pause, that breathless moment. Could this be it? The story ends, and begins again, in a drawer. In a pocket. In a moment of curiosity. That's the real treasure, not the money, not the coin, not the copper, not the rumors. It's the moment someone looks at something they've seen 1,000 times, and finally sees it. It's the idea that even now, even here, greatness can still be hiding in the smallest, simplest things. So if you find yourself holding a 1994 penny, don't rush to spend it. Don't drop it in the nearest jar. Don't let it slip away unseen. Study it, weigh it, examine it, honor it, because there's always a chance, however slim, however impossible, however unbelievable, that the story was true all along, and that in the end, the coin you've been waiting for, has been waiting for you, too. The search isn't over. It never was, and as long as one more person reaches into their pocket and asks, what if? The legend of the 1994 penny will live on, forever.